Today's market is so hot, 66% of listings are getting multiple offers. This video is going to explain what they are, how they work, and help you crack the code on winning that contract.
Authorizing.
The definition of multiple offers is when more than one buyer competes to win a contract. This video is going to have two sections. Number one, the code. That's the psychology of multiple offers. Two, cracking the code, and that is using that psychology to win a contract. Contingencies are conditions that must be met in order for a contract to move forward. It's a mechanism that protects buyers from surprises. For example, I knew the house needed work, but not that much work. It allows them to terminate the contract without penalty. A term, on the other hand, is an agreed upon provision like a sales price or a closing date. Under normal market conditions, buyers are going to include contingencies to make sure they're getting a solid house at a good price. That favors the buyer. But in this multiple offer market, buyers are minimizing contingencies, hopefully to improve their chances of winning the contract. But that begs the question, what do the sellers want? Well, here's the answer. They want more money and less hassle. Here's a tip for you. Before you write your offer, be sure to call the seller first and ask what matters the most to them, and use that information to write your offer. To a seller, a contingency is a hassle because until those are all cleared up, there is no assurance of a closing, and a seller can't move on mentally until that happens. Your goal needs to be to make it as easy as possible for the seller to say yes to your offer, understanding fewer contingencies means less protection for you. Your offer is going to live somewhere between all cash and no contingencies and getting a loan with contingencies. Now, I'm going to go through these contingencies, but I'm not going to bore you to death with details. I'm going to go through at a pretty high level. So if you have questions, just leave those in the comments. Let's talk about financing contingencies. If you're getting a loan, you're going to have a financial contingency, and all that means is if your loan can't go through for one reason or another, right up into closing day, you can terminate the contract and get out without penalty. But financing contingency comes in several different layers of effectiveness, and here they are. Number one, a pre-qual letter. You've heard of those. That's where you call a lender and you tell them what your financial status is, and they go, man, if that's true, you sound good up to $400,000. The second one is pre-approved. That's where the lender takes your information you gave them and verifies that. Pre-approved, that's a little bit stronger. Third is pre-certified. That's where you've submitted all your information to the lender and they've actually underwritten you and you're ready to go. That's about as close to cash as you can get. The fourth is cash, of course, and cash is king, and it gets the most attention. But that doesn't mean cash always wins. If you can get pre-certified, that's a very cool thing. Let's talk about title expenses. Title expenses, it's a title policy, and all they really does, and I suppose if you need it, it's important, but it costs a couple of $1,000s on average, depending on the price of the property. But it protects the owner, whoever's living there, against tax liens, back taxes, mechanics liens, stuff like that. If you, the buyer, can pay for title expenses in terms of a multiple offer situation, the buyer's going to look favorably at that, and it's not terribly expensive, but it sends a signal to, hey, I'm really willing to work with you. Let's talk about inspection contingencies. This contingency, hands down, is where most deals go to die. If they're going to die, this is the place. But there's several different versions of inspections that you can take advantage of. Let me explain. The normal inspection is you go under contract, you get an inspection period of 5 or 10 days, hire an inspector, he gives you the report. From that report, you'll pick out items that you think need to be fixed, and you and the seller will negotiate what they will and will not fix. That's the normal inspection. There's two things that can happen. If you can't come to an agreement, you terminate the contract, you're out of here, or they do agree, and it costs the seller some money to get those repairs done. Any way you slice it, for multiple offers, the regular inspection these days is not cool to sellers. It's just not. So you have a second offer, and it's called pass-fail. You still have the right to the home inspection, which I think is important. Go have your inspector take a look at it, But then he gives you a report, and on the whole, you get to decide, I can live with this, or I can't. You're sending the signal to the seller saying, I'm not asking you to fix anything, I just want to make sure the place is solid before I buy it. Pass-fail works pretty good. Then there's as is, no inspection. You have to be a real daredevil to do that. And some people are doing it, you know. The as is, no inspection means we'll take it like it is, no questions asked. I think that that's insanity, if I may. But that's without a doubt the most risky for the buyer and the least risk, least hassle for the seller. Another contingency is wood-destroying insects like termites and carpenter bees and carpet beetles or whatever all that kind of stuff is. And I wouldn't gloss over this too much. Here's the thing. Per contract, at least in Tennessee, if termites are found, it's the seller's responsibility to get those things treated. If you want, as a buyer, to sweeten the deal, you say, look, if termites are found, I'll pay for the treatment. But get the home inspected for termite damage, because those little buggers, they can do some damage that you can't see, and an inspector will tell you about it. So be a little careful about termites. Remember a little bit ago when I told you to first, before you write your offer, call the seller and ask them what's important to them? Closing date. Call those guys and say, hey, can you close in 30 days? Do you need a little more time? Ask the seller what they need in terms of closing date, especially these days, because it's hard for anybody to find a home. They may be having difficulties with that as well, or at least it'll scare them. So you may end up in a situation where you have to rent back to them for a little bit. You don't have to, but if you offer that, that's going to be a really good sign that you're willing to work with these guys. So find out what's important to the seller in terms of closing dates. The next item on the list is a home warranty. As a buyer, if you're trying to compete with multiple offers, I wouldn't ask the seller to pay for a home warranty. They're usually like $500-600, and they're okay. They're okay. But if you ask the seller to pay for that, that's sending the wrong signal. And you can get your own after closing within like 30 days. So my advice is, if you're trying to win multiple offer, don't ask for a home warranty. And finally, the last bridge that usually buyers and sellers have to cross before closing is the appraisal. This day and age, with what's going on with the way the market's going up so fast, there's a lot of appraisals that are coming in low because they can't really keep up with what's going on in the market. If you have come to the table with significant funds, say 20% or 30% down, you can survive a low appraisal. If you're coming to the table with not that 20% down, surviving a low appraisal is going to be difficult. So here's what I'm trying to say. Don't waive your appraisal contingency. That really is an important safeguard, and I think that most people understand that we need to have that in place. That's really a safety net for sure. So be a little cautious about your appraisal. In my view, cracking the code means making an offer that you can live with if the seller says yes, but you're okay with if they say no. Be sure to watch my video, Why is this insane housing market so hot right now? If you like this video, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you don't miss anything. Talk to you soon.